Okay, it's working now. Cool. Sorry it took me a second. I feel like it was like unlisting the live stream automatically, like it was like not showing up. But now I think we're good. Yeah, okay, now it's working. Yeah. Sorry if you were trying to like jump in here. It was like making it an unlisted video and I like couldn't get the link for some reason. Just give me one sec and we'll get this going. We'll get this going. Cool. Alright, I'm just gonna post it on Twitter. I'm posting it on Twitter. Right now. Cool. What's up, people? Let me know if you can hear me in the chat. For some reason, YouTube's program was being really weird. But I think we're good. I think we are good. Yo! What's up, Spoonie? Yeah, we're good. Oh, word? Cool. Thanks, Jake. That's dope, man. That's dope. Okay, cool. So I was gonna kick this on at 7 and then start at 7:10. I just needed a minute to like clean my brushes and stuff. We'll just hang out for like a minute, and then we'll get going. I'll let people hop in. I think I just said this, but I don't know if people are like actively coming in. But yeah, it was like I started the live stream and then I went to my channel to get the link and it wasn't there, and I was like, oh my god, am I like shadow banned on YouTube? Like, is that a thing? And I think it was just automatically making the video like unlisted or something. So whatever. All right, let's get this lighting situation. I feel like some people, you know, when they get the camera video thing going, they like try really hard to make it seem professional. But I'm just totally on the other end of the spectrum where I'm like, yep, I'm really good at painting and drawing. Have no idea what I'm doing making videos. So I feel like that gives me a lot of leeway. Oh, like actually I can see that I need to move the thing over in OBS just a tiny bit. There we go. I'm gonna adjust the camera and then we'll do this. And we'll do this thing. How you guys doing? You know, we're kind of like deep into the quarantine now. Honestly, I'm kind of enjoying it. This morning I was sitting around and I was like, do I miss interacting with people? I mean, a little bit, but you know, do I really? Do I really miss it? Let's see, do I want to bump the exposure up? Yeah, too much, too much. There we go. Let me just do the focus. I'm going to put something on the... Oh, this is perfect. So yeah, I'm kind of stoked. I think we're going to do it a little bit different this time. Not too different, but just a little different. Okay, and I'm going to focus the camera. For anyone that's in here right now, I'm assuming the people that like have the bell on and are like, or like at least saw the tweet and like jumped in. I've been doing these streams on Saturday night where I literally just hang out and like look at art on museum websites, and it's been pretty tight. So if you find yourself chilling on Saturday night and want to come through, you can do that. I'm leaving them like soft ephemeral where I'm not like hardcore advertising them after the fact, but I just leave them up as unlisted videos so you can follow them through my tweets, but otherwise they're kind of just lost to the ether. I think we're good on the focus. I'm gonna move this out of here, get the screen all aesthetic, and then we'll do this thing. Can I close this window? Yeah, perfect. Quarantine vibes been very chill. Rat race status slowed down. Nice. Yeah, it's funny because I'm almost like jealous of people that, I mean, you know, I know everyone has like, you know, money, whatever, and you know, we all have our own situation. But in a way, like, you know, I work from home and I work from the studio by myself, so like not really that much has changed in my life. So I'm kind of just like LARPing when I'm like, oh man, like, I mean, I don't like go to the store or anything anymore. I haven't really like left my house for like, what, like 10, 12 days. What's the plan? What are you painting? Actually, all right. So I'll explain. Well, I'll explain after the intro. I'm just gonna make sure everything's set up on Twitter, and then because I mean we have to do the intro, right? Obviously. What time is it? 7:12. Let me get the chat up. We are officially starting. Officially right now. All right. Yes. How's it going, guys? Nice. People like the intro in the chat. Word up. All right. So, how's it going? How are you guys doing? I'm still cozy quarantine style, like people were saying. I feel like the last time I really left my house was a while ago, man. It was a while ago. It's also been raining here, which really reinforces like the hermit aesthetic. You could probably hear the rain. Keeping you guys posted on this nest of robins that's like a few feet outside my window. Their nest has gotten even bigger. I might even like take a picture of it. I feel like it's cooler if people imagine it, but it's insane. It's like this huge nest like spilling out of this hole in my carport, and I can hear this like robin family. And whenever I pull my car up, I can see the mom like fly away. Like I guess she gets kind of scared and like flies away. But so it's really that's really the epitome of the vibe. I got delayed because So I posted all the recent shirts and graphics and prints and stuff like that. I could show you guys. I have them on my floor over here, but I just posted them. You probably just saw them on Twitter. But it was funny because I posted this St. Herman of Alaska shirt, and then someone commented like, "Hey, all the crosses are backwards on this." So I had to like really quickly jump in and like flip them all around. Actually, I'll show you guys one thing that's kind of cool real quick before we hop in. Just for the people that are here early on the stream. So what's cool is that, you know, like I can print whatever I want on these shirts. So I made this graphic of this guy. I called it the amateur theologian of this guy. Like it's almost like he's like in pain, like thinking about like all these like serious like theological issues. And it even says like the amateur theologian on the bottom. I didn't put it in the shop. I don't know. I was like, is anyone really going to buy this? But I'm going to wear it so I can like do my own thing. If anyone wants this, hit me up. I'm not trying to shill. I'm just saying, showing you guys something cool. I made it just for me to wear around my house. No one else is probably going to see that. But you guys. Anyway, so here's the deal. It's actually been going really well on the stream because a lot of people have hit me up and been like, hey man, like I'm going to start drawing because you've been doing this stream, or, I started like sketching more, and they'll send me like sketches they made and stuff like that. And that's really awesome. I mean, honestly, that's like literally the whole reason that I'm doing this. So I was thinking, one thing that people have contacted me a lot about is, hey man, like, how can I start painting and stuff a little bit more? They don't phrase it this way, but what they're basically asking me is like a little bit more like cheaply, you know what I mean? Because, the paints that I use, these gouache paints, it's not very well organized right now, but you'd have to be going pretty hard to like just bite it all off right at the front and just buy like the full palette that I use on here. It would definitely be like hundreds of dollars, like at least with like the brushes and all that stuff. So I was thinking, since everyone is all like cooped up inside, I would maybe talk a little bit about stuff that's easier to hop into, or that people could plausibly like, just start getting going in your house. You can start painting, but like I said, it's kind of a whole operation, and honestly, it's a little bit easier to build up to. If you start sketching and then you start using a few tools, you start to get the hang of just like how the whole thing really works, because there's always things you don't think of, like let's say you start painting, right? And then you have to go clean your brushes, and then you're like, oh, well, I'm in my house. and I'm painting in my room, and I just realized, the bathroom's downstairs. I have to go to the sink and like clean the brushes. Like, oh, I should have got like, a bag or something up here. Like, you figure out all these little things that you don't think of. So you kind of like build up slowly, and then, your whole situation becomes kind of like a well-oiled machine. So I was thinking that I'd break into a few tools that I haven't used in a long time, but actually there's some of my favorite things to use. Things you can pick up cheaply. Not cheaply is not really the right word, but you don't have to drop like hundreds of dollars on it. Also, I kind of just want to use them because I haven't used them in a long time, and it's some of my favorite stuff. So I thought we would start out with that, and then if I feel like it's not really the move with the camera and everything, we'll just switch over to painting. I like to keep it kind of loose, kind of like free form. I'm going to bring the camera down a little bit, which means that I have to, let's see, I like to have it be the width of the paper. If you're watching this on your phone, like really up close, you're probably like getting the IMAX zoom in effect or whatever. We should even bring it a little bit. Actually, let's bring it a little bit more. Sorry if I'm going full shaky cam. If you have like, like epilepsy or something, look away. I'm also just going to make sure I don't have the autofocus on real quick. Let's just make sure. Where is the box? Do I have it on? I don't, but I'm going to keep that little tab open. I'm getting better at like focusing. I actually practiced a little bit when no one was around. All right. So the thing about, here we go, cool. And I say this every time, but I'm also getting good at like looking at the chat while I'm talking, and sometimes I have to like not look at it. I'll be like in the middle of a thought, and then I'll just happen to glance over at my computer, and I'll see what someone wrote, and it'll just totally like derail my train of thought. So I'm getting good at like balancing that and seeing how I want to do it. Anyway, though, let's just hop right in. So there's two components to what I wanted to go over right at the beginning here real quick. And honestly, I can't really tell where to start because there's a black and white tool that I really want to dive into, and there's a color tool that I really want to dive into. Let's just start with the black and white because I want to show you guys something pretty cool. So what I'm doing right now, I'm just going to detach this page from the block in case it's your first time here. Oh, also, since this, I don't know if this will really be like the whole episode of like talking about what people should get at home, but in one of the earlier episodes, I think it's the first one and second one, I went over all the tools like hardcore. So I'm not doing that again, but if you're new here and you want to go back and check it out, it's like the first two episodes where I go over hardcore, like why am I tearing this page off of a block? You will find out if you go watch it. It's because it's glued on the side so the paper doesn't buckle. That's the real reason why. So I'm pulling this off, and I'm doing that because the ink that I'm about to use, it is not going to warp the page. The reason why I use pages that are glued down like that on the sides is when the paint has glue in it, that's why it sticks and doesn't fall off whatever you're painting on. It'll pull the paper. You can imagine if you put a bunch of glue on the paper, it's like pulling the paper, and the paper will buckle. So that's why I use this block where it's glued down on the sides. But I'm about to use some ink, and it's not going to do that. It doesn't really matter. So I detached it because if the ink is still drying and I decide like, okay, we're done here, let's move on, I can just get rid of the paper. If I have something drying on the block and I'm trying to like pull it off and then it smudges and I'm getting shit everywhere, it's really not good optics on the stream. Really bad optics. So first things first, I'm going to just quickly square off this page. And let's see, should I talk about all these pens and stuff I have over here? I think I'm just gonna dive in. Yeah. Can't find my little ruler. It's fine. I am just going to use something else. So here, maybe you don't have a ruler. Here, I'll be a good example for you. So rulers, stuff like that, things you should get, but if not, you can use other things. So for example, I just grabbed this little block right here, and I'm just going to square off the border of the page. So by the way, since people have been sending me art and sketches and things like that, every single person, actually, every single person gets the same response whenever they send me anything, which is, yo, this is really dope. You need to make a border and draw into the border. So you're composing a picture rather than just drawing into the infinite white void. It's really funny because Stefan Molyneux, oh wait, let me pull up OBS so I can just make sure I'm not like going off camera here. Stefan Molyneux, I used to watch his streams like all the time. I used to watch his Q&As, not Q&As really, the ones where he does like kind of like psychological like interviews with people. I used to watch those a bunch just because I thought they were interesting while I'm like cleaning my house and shit. And sometimes he'll get someone and he's like, oh, have you gone to therapy before? And they're like, no. And he's like, so you watch the show a lot? And the person's like, yeah. And he's like, and I always talk about how important it is to go to therapy. And the person's like, yeah. And he's like, so do you think I meant everyone except you? You think you're like the one exception or something? And the person's like, oh, I never really thought about that. I've never been to therapy, but... And that's what it makes me think of when people send me drawings without a border. I'm like, oh, so every single episode, every single time, what's the first thing I do and talk about every time? Putting it in a border. So you think you're the one exception? Of course you're not. I'm nicer about it, but if you send me shit and it's not in a border, even like this, like, look, see, it's not perfect. It's fine. It doesn't matter. It's just really funny. The reason for that, just in case anyone's not clear, is like, if I was drawing a picture of this box, not a very interesting thing to draw. If I'm putting it in a frame, it's like, ooh, is it down in the corner? Is it right in the middle, kind of like a graphic? Am I being kind of weird? Maybe I drew it up here. Maybe I drew it over here. It's being composed instead of just like floating on an infinite white sphere. I mean, not white sphere, white surface. Okay, so the first thing I want to hit, let's just break it out. I mean, how epic does this look? Oh, this is some real heavy-duty material that is seriously close to my heart right here. Man, I love this shit so much. This is easily one of my favorite drawing tools of all time. And in fact, so, people are at home. People are like, oh, maybe I'll start doing art, but I don't want to drop all this money. For a really long time, maybe for about a year even, might have been longer than that, actually. I only worked in black and white. So the only things that were part of my arsenal were some pens like this, which you can easily procure. You don't even really need them, honestly, if you get the other stuff. This ink, and then the brushes and pens I'm about to show you right now. So, you could get away with that for like 50, $60 probably, and you could make some like serious art. Like this is a full like high caliber artistic tool. When you go to buy materials and stuff like that, you might wonder like why certain things are more expensive. It's a few factors, but it's on one side, the quality of the materials that you're getting. So this ink, for example, is period the blackest ink you can get. It's blacker than black. If I don't really have any shitty ink around here because why would I have like shitty ink around? But if you went to the store and got like some cheap ink and put it on here, it would look black, right? But then if you break this out and put it next to it, it makes the other ink look like faded gray. This is like the real thing. So on one hand, it's the quality of the tools, and on the other hand, it's whether it's archival. I'm actually not even sure I ever talked about this, but the materials that you get and when you work on, part of what makes them expensive sometimes, so you can also factor in if you want to spend the money on this in the beginning, is if they're archival. So for example, ink, paint, paper, if it has acid in it, let's say this became like a really famous, stream, and they were like, oh my god, we got to get this in a museum, and they put this in a museum. If this was cheap paper that had acid in it, it would yellow over time. Printer paper, like cheap printer paper, the reason it's so cheap is because, well, part of the reason why, it's not archival at all. If you framed up a piece of printer paper and just left it there for like 100 years, it would basically get yellow and fall apart eventually. In fact, I don't know if I should say what project it was a part of. I'm not sure if you can like really look this up, but my mom's mom, so my grandmother, who I never met, she died, was part of this like really cool secretive like government program, and she got this like calligraphied letter at the end of it that was like, hey, like thanks for being part of this like government program. Nothing sketchy, but nothing too well known either. So it's pretty cool. But the problem is now all the ink is completely faded. You can barely read it, and the paper is like the color of this wood right here. It's like totally, falling apart basically. So that's what happens if you get cheap materials. In the beginning, maybe you don't really care. You're like, whatever, it's not, I'm kind of hard up for money right now. It doesn't really matter if I get like cheap shit. That's totally cool. You can make that call. It's also a balance. Not really sure I talked about this yet either, but it's also a balance between how much you can afford to spend versus what you'll actually use if you buy it. Like I heard this story once of this guy who bought this like $4,000, $5,000 like wedding ring for his wife. But then he was too worried about her wearing it outside. So he got it like insured. And whenever she wore it, he was like super paranoid. And it was like, yeah, you spent too much money, more than you could afford to. And now you're too paranoid to even use it, right? You don't want to do that with your art supplies. What I mean by that is like, some people, let's say they only have like X amount of money and you spend like a little bit more than you should, then you're too paranoid about using it. If you couldn't afford it to begin with, then you're like, oh my God, I don't want to use too much paint. Like when I run out, I can't buy more. Like, and then you don't use it and then you don't get better. And there was no point in you doing that whole thing. So that's something else to keep in mind, be realistic and, you want to get stuff you're going to use. Anyway, oh man, so this thing right here. Okay, so let's talk about this. So you can see this is Sumi ink. Sumi is like a painting tradition from Japan, other parts of East Asia too. I should say I know it from Japan, but they do it in China too. They do it in Korea, I'm sure, other places too. But Sumi, I'm pretty sure, is a Japanese word. And you get a block like this. You don't really need a block like this. It's just fancy, honestly, and it's convenient to put the ink in. But you could theoretically use other structures too, like you'll figure it out. But this is a good thing to have. It's not that expensive either. And it's a really hard block. If you have headphones in, I'm going to bang this for a second so you can hear how hard it is. It's like a big rock, basically. I don't actually know what it's made of, but it's really heavy too. And you can see on the camera, so it's like flat and then it divots in over here. And this shiny part, this is actually dried ink from this. So when the ink dries, it's a little bit shiny. I was a bad person and I let the ink dry in here. I could get it out with water. The ink's water soluble, but we'll talk about that in a minute. And the reason it's like this, actually, I'm going to see if I have one really quick under my desk. Hold up one second. I think I have one. I thought I saw one when I was getting materials. Oh, I do. Yo, fuck yeah. Sorry, I'm trying not to curse because, it's like the Winnie the Pooh Bear meme where he's like, this is a Christian server. But actually, though. All right, so the reason it's sloped like this is because in the traditional art form, what you would do, and if you've seen like, if you have another window open, you can Google like, Chinese landscape painting or something like that, or even if you've just seen like black and white Asian kind of paintings before. Basically what they do is they have a block like this, and this is actually dry ink. This is the stuff you would need to put into water to make that water into ink. This is kind of fancy one. It's got this like gold writing on it. I got this from like an art store in New York, but it doesn't really matter. And what you would do, I would do it right now. Maybe I will. Why not? Why not? Fuck it. Let's do it. Okay. Am I about to embarrass myself pouring water like this on the stream? Yeah, I am. I'm just gonna do it. I'm doing it off camera though, so if I fuck it up, no one's gonna know. Oh, I did it perfectly. Fuck yeah. Cool. I actually didn't do it perfectly, but I thought about lying, but then I don't want to lie to you guys. I spilled a little bit. It's okay though. Okay, so give me a paper towel. All right, so what you do is you put water in this little dish, and the reason it's sloped is because you're gonna take this thing right over here. I haven't done this in years, so I actually don't know how this is gonna go, but I think it'll be fine. And what artists would do in these like East Asian countries is you literally just grind this dried up pigment into the water. Let's see, I don't want to make it too dark off the bat. So let's see how much see if that even did anything. I'm gonna grab my pack of brushes. Cool, and I'm gonna I'll show you guys what I got going on. I want one that's not too big. I want one kind of casual. This is probably perfect right here. We talk about brushes too, actually. I probably will if we do the whole stream about ink and stuff like that. Ink is really awesome. You really can't underestimate the black and white situation. And I mentioned before, I worked for a whole year, maybe even more, only in black and white. And it's really, really awesome doing that, actually. It really unlocks this like other part of your brain, and because when you're working in black and white, it's like you only have the lights and the darks and the composition of the image. Color is such an intense variable. I would probably liken it to, you can imagine if you're like composing a piece for an orchestra versus just playing it on the piano. Playing the piano fittingly with the keys is kind of like black and white. You just have that one sound and you're working with a controlled limit of variables, whereas with the orchestra, you have the whole color of every instrument. That's actually kind of what it's like with painting and stuff like that. Sometimes if I'm, giving advice to like younger artists or something, I'll tell them like, you should do more black and white stuff for a while just to like feel out that part of your brain. So you can start there. Anyway, so I grinded up this thing in here, and let's see how dark it is. So the idea is that, it's not dark at all. Oh, such a nice warm gray too. You probably can't even really see it. Let's do this. I'll put a little gray in here. It also gets you more sensitive, honestly, working with the black and white. Like, I'm not putting on like an act or something. Like that reaction is genuine. Like looking at this gray, like it's a really nice, like warm gray. Anyway, so the idea is with Sumi painting, what you would do. So you probably can't even see it. It's just barely noticeable. What the artist would do is, let's say, I'll just do it right now. So let's say you're Sumi painting. So you grind it a little bit, and you get a little bit of darkness going on. So let's say, you know, this is your, what, like 10% darkness. I'm going a little fast so you can see some of the brush strokes, but I want to keep it interesting for people. I'm not going to fully like Zen master out and spend like 3 hours like painting some mountains over here. But I could. And then you'd lay down the really light grays, and then you'd go back in and grind this more. And progressively, you turn the ink darker and darker and darker and build up all the way to your darkest black at the end. So if you go to a museum, you see like Asian paintings that are like that, where there's like all these different levels of gray. That's basically what they're doing, and that's what classical Sumi painting is. And it's really nice working this way. So if you've been watching the streams with the other forms of painting, oh, I was wrong. It's buckling a little bit. It's fine though. If you've been watching the other streams, you know, I'm only painting. So let's see if it's darker. Yeah, wow, it is darker. Nice. So you can see, and you can imagine how, you know, if you were really like some kind of master in this like painting form, you'd slowly be able to build up the darks and stuff like that. This paper is going to buckle. You can see it's already buckling. So I'm just going to go a little crazy, and we'll see how it goes over here. So the cool thing about this, let's see. I'm gonna paint in another layer of the darkness over here. So if you've been watching the painting stream so far, with the painting I've been doing, it's all what I would call like dry on dry. Like everything is totally dry, right? Which means that the amount of like variation that there is very, very low in terms of, you know, whenever I touch the brush to the paper, I know what's going to happen, right? I touch the brush to the paper, it dispenses paint in like a pretty predictable fashion, and that's basically it. With this kind of painting though, you get what's called like wet in wet, where, so this ink is wet. And you can see now when I go back in, I can kind of harness that, the fact that the paper is wet and the ink is going to like diffuse into it. Let's see, what am I going to paint? Let's just do something really quick. Because the paper is going to buckle, it's going to look like shit, so I'm going to change the page anyway. Cool. So yeah, this is just a segue to me deploying this dark ink over here. I don't actually expect anyone to like get into Sumi painting. I mean, if you want to, you can. It's been kind of like a landscape. Oh, now we are full Bob Ross. Now I really am esoteric Bob Ross status. If this was a real Chinese landscape, you'd go back and like put in the little trees in the back. The mountains going on over here. Yeah. And you can see, actually, so you can see, look over here. So when I put it down over here, this part is still really wet and you can see it like diffuse, but over here it's dry. And it's almost like, I would say, it's almost like a little bit less. So this is like too wet, this is like too dry. You can see that my brush stroke just is perfect, right? It's a perfect, super crisp on all sides brush stroke. But if I was going really hard, I wouldn't want it to be so perfect. Conversely, over here, it kind of just like becomes nothing. So you start to use like the wetness of the paper. And if I was going really hard on Sumi painting, I might have like, you know, paper towel. I have a paper towel right now. I'm just not using it. To like selectively dry like certain areas and stuff like that. Let's see. Make this a little darker over here. It's really nice with the rain. I don't know if you guys can hear the rain right now, but we're officially like fucking chilling right now. And normally this would be like very meditative. I wouldn't be like grinding it like as fast as possible, but I didn't plan on spending like a really long time on this. And if this was a real Chinese painting, there'd probably be like some guy. Oh, nice. We already got it like black. That's tight. See, this is like dry on dry. It's going to be hard for me to like, let's see, what's this guy doing? It's a guy. He's on the shore. Let's get a little darkness down here in the bottom. Maybe this is like where the water comes out. Maybe the water like comes up front over here. And then we got like some bushes or something maybe. Maybe there's bushes. Maybe there's like a big black like tree coming on over here. Doesn't really look like a tree. But let's see how it goes. Maybe there's like some stuff. Maybe he had like a basket. It's probably what I would have painted in, but And let's see, maybe we'll get like the shoreline going on. Maybe he's fishing. Fuck yeah, dude. And then the water. And then let's see. I would like to be able to go back. See, if this was like real Sumi painting, I would have like planned it out. But also what I'm doing now is I'm dipping into the clear water, and then I can go back in and like clear it up a little bit. Here we go. Cool. I know this doesn't really look like anything. Obviously you can see I'm just kind of like winging it while I'm talking to you. And then you might go back in and put in some like darks. Yeah, that looks fucking good. And I really want to get that like Chinese tree effect, but it's not happening. It's too dark up here. You see how, like, I mean, it's too wet. Sometimes in these paintings they'll come in and it'll have like the little trees. But I'm just getting the full diffusal. I'm not getting like the little tree effect. Let's see, you think it goes much darker? I think it would. I think it would go darker. Let's see. And yeah, the other reason why I wanted to do these streams and stuff, I mentioned this a few times, but like, I don't know, just like fucking around doing art is so tight. I think most people only ever see like hardcore, like perfect finished images, and they're like, oh my god, I'm never gonna make like a perfect rooster like that. Like, what? But honestly, even what I'm doing right now, just to like show you guys like the nature of these materials, is pretty tight. It's pretty fun. Yeah, see, way too wet. It's just like blooming. That's what you would call this if you were doing like with a teacher or something. It's just like blooming completely when I touch the paper over here. Anyway, let's let that dry for a minute, and we'll look at the ink that I actually wanted to show you guys. Also, this is really tight. I'll show you guys a few like tools. Oh no, it's a bat! Oh, I didn't even think about that. I'm gonna get fucking the virus. Anyway, what this is, it's not just like a decorative amulet on my desk over here. When you're working with a lot of wet tools, so one thing you're gonna find if you start painting is all of a sudden like you have all this stuff that you're actively using that then has like, you know, pigment on it or paint or binder or water, and like you don't know what to do. That's what this is for actually. So you're looking top down, so it might be a little confusing, but you can see it has these like clearly defined divots in it. So while I'm working, I can just put the brush in there and then go do something else. That's what this is for. So off screen, that's how I'm like keeping my brushes in between me talking to you and stuff. All right, so I'm gonna shake this up. I love the name too. I love the label. Even the label is like very aesthetic to me. Yasumoto, Sumi ink, black. There's another one that has a red top, just so you guys know. The one with the red top has a binder in it that makes it not water soluble. So I keep using art terms like that just so if you watch the stream, you'll be able to like talk about that kind of stuff like fluently with yourself or with people, or just think about it. This pigment, oh, this is actually a perfect illustration of what water soluble means. This, I put it in water, it dissolved. This is water soluble. There's some inks that aren't water soluble, which means they're glue. So the glue holding this together, you can imagine this is like a million particles, right, all glued together with like a literal glue. When that glue comes in contact with water, it releases itself. It like lets go basically. So if I threw this into I could actually throw this into a water bottle and shake up the water bottle, and the water bottle would become ink. You can do that. It's not very traditional, but you can do that. This ink has binder too, just less of it. So it's not a block, it's a liquid, right? And that binder is also water soluble. So let's say theoretically I took this, if I just drew a line and then later came back and put water on that line, even if it was like a day, a week, a month later, it wouldn't matter. That line would release and like let go of itself. The binder would dissolve. It would become like, you know, this, like the blooming, like fractaling out. There's one with a red top where the ink has a binder that's not water soluble. I don't really like that though. I don't know, probably because it's just less traditional. Maybe that's why. I think it looks different too, but that's just my own like opinion. Technically it shouldn't look different, but I really think it does. Okay, so the reason I really like this ink, and like I said, with just a brush, a pen, not like a micron pen, not like this kind of pen. I'm going to show you what a pen actually is in a second. Over here, just with a brush, with this ink and some paper and the pen, the other kind of pen, you could go really far, man. You could have a whole art career. You could work for years just with those materials, and they're not very expensive. So let's just see. Let's see how wet this is. I'm going to try and get that like, yeah, there we go. Nice. So you can already see this is like 1,000,000,000,000 times darker. And let's see what we can get going over here. Some like trees. Maybe it's like trees. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's night. Maybe I'll make it night in this guy's like situation. I don't know. I like the warm gray top though. I'm not going to make it night. So you can see already, I'm not like really painting. I mean, I am, but I just want to like show you guys the effects you can get. So you can see already there's this like variability that's very, very interesting. Like you can utilize this I really should have like a way of like describing what I'm trying to say. It's like it's not like so direct. There's like chance. Oh, that's the word I'm looking for. It's like there's chance involved, and that's one way that you can actually get a lot of like interesting stuff going on in your work as an artist is, you know, meeting that chance halfway. When you start working with water, that's part of why watercolors are so difficult and so interesting. You're never 100% in control. You only get better and better at controlling the variables, but it's never 100% in your control. And at first, that's really frustrating, but eventually, once you get good at it, like another tool I'm about to break out in a second, we're not going to only be working with ink, but I'm kind of feeling it right now, honestly. You know, it gets to be very, very interesting. And it's almost like you have like a natural element that you can then incorporate into your work. If you have a tool where you're 100% controlling everything, like when I'm drawing in Photoshop, it's actually a perfect example. There's no variables. I know 100% what's going to happen every time, all the time when I'm working in Photoshop because it's a computer, everything's perfect. Nothing's ever really going to honestly go that crazy in Photoshop unless I make it. You know, it's like perfectly controlled. Whereas ink on paper, like I said, it's the opposite. Things start bleeding together, unexpected color combinations, and once you start to utilize that, it adds a whole other element to your art. I kind of think of it as like incorporating like the natural world into your process in a way, like when nature does stuff. So I got this guy under this tree. It's kind of loose, but you know, whatever. Yeah, it's kind of like a way of like incorporating like nature into your process, basically. You'll see what I mean if you actually do it. So I'm gonna paint in this like coastline over here. He's like standing on this like rocky shore. I actually kind of like how this looks right now. It looks kind of dope. I'm going to put some like reeds or something over here. Let's get some more trees. The big tall tree element is like kind of tight. It's kind of dope. And let's see. I'm going to go back in now with the lighter ink. You can't tell because the full blast Sumi ink like completely overpowers it. But let's see if we can get the gray. There we go. It's a little bit more gray. Let's see, I'm just going to go back in with the water now, totally. I feel like this like kind of needs something going on over here. You also start to get to learn like about like how reality kind of like looks. It sounds weird, but you get better at like, you know, yeah, just like calibrating like how things look in real life. Like for example, let's say I was going to put some like trees back here or like just dig into the mountain. Things are always like blurrier when they're farther away. They're less dark. If I came in with like, this is even too dark how I have my brush right now. But if I came in with the full darkness all the way in the back, not that this is like some great painting or whatever, but it would cease to look like this is like farther away in the distance. Right now I got a little bit of like distance going on, but those little bits were like too sharp. I think if I come like this, and then actually I'm going to see if I can even just take some paper towel and pick it up because it's still kind of like too dark. Yeah, now it's too light though. So you get used to it, I guess, in a way. I want like just a little bit of darkness. I want some like ridges in the distance. You can kind of imagine you're like, I mean, I hope you guys go fishing. I just posted the fishing shirt, but you can imagine you're like down here looking at like some hill in the distance. Yeah, you're not going to get like the full contrast. Yeah, that looks kind of hot, actually. That looks kind of dope. Cool. Cool. Yo, this looks sick, actually. I'm really feeling this right now. And I think that if I got something up here in the front, it would also kind of like cement that this is like the foreground. You know, who knows what it is. Maybe it's like a rock or like some shit. But more contrast up in the front is going to like bring this up in the front. And actually, yo, you know what would be hot? I'm going to see if I can put in some fishes. Just like some little fucking fishes. Hell yeah. Maybe this is good while you're stuck inside. Oh, way too dark. Way too dark. There we go. That's better. So yeah, this is really fun, and honestly, you don't even have to be good at it. I mean, this isn't something I would like hang up in my like fridge or something, but it's really tight. I kind of can't stop. I want to move on, but I can't stop. Let's see. I'm gonna get some more these tall trees in here. Oh, that looks dope. Now we got like some tree situationing. Yeah, perfect. Okay, cool. All right, I have to stop. but I can't stop. That looks dope. That looks sick. And actually, these trees made it, you know, into like a little scene. So I'm going to see if I can just I want to get this like pushed back over here. I want to see if I can get it so it reads that there's like trees in the distance, but I don't know if I can do it. So you can see I'm working up here at the top of the dish now. Up here, I'm basically dipping my brush in water. The brush is loaded up with a ton of water. And I'm seeing if I can get just a little bit of the ink from the bottom up here in the top. Nah, it's still too dark. Still too dark. But you know what I can do? I can come in and I can kind of like pick it up a little bit. Maybe a little. That kind of works actually. Yeah, this is a dope fishing spot. I would fucking fish here for sure. And yeah, nice. Yeah, I was gonna say, you know, it's kind of cool how it just like develops, you know. Obviously, like, you know, I'm really used to like composing a picture, so I kind of am able to be like, oh, you know, there's like the light sky, and then we're building up slowly, and I know that like doing a lot of contrast in the front makes it look like the front. But what's cool about this kind of thing, and when you start incorporating like, I hope, actually, I know you can. If you've watched the other painting streams, you can see how there's a spectrum of like, I'm controlling everything totally perfect when I do the normal painting versus here where it's like, you know, it's kind of like you're just firing like a flamethrower. That's actually exactly what it's like. If you're firing a flamethrower, you can't really control where it's going to go. You can just kind of like direct it. So that's what I would compare this to. And the nice thing about utilizing the randomness and the chance element when you start working with water-based tools is that eventually it becomes ambiguous to the viewer how much you planned and how much just happened. In the viewer's mind, that distinction doesn't exist. So like looking at this right now, like what is all this over here? Like it kind of looks like I came in and I was like, okay, there's a little path and maybe there's a rock and but you watched me do it. I was just kind of like fucking around. Like it actually kind of looks like maybe this is like a path coming down and then we have this like, so, you know, I guess what I'm getting at is that's the nice thing about watercolors. You start losing that distinction between what you're doing and what is happening. It's all like you're just curating this chain reaction event in front of you that then results in like a picture. Yeah, that was fun as hell, man. Cool. All right, we got one down. Stream's over. No, I'm just kidding. We're gonna keep going. So yeah, and you know, actually, like when I started, I was like, you know, should I do the ink thing? But I'm glad I did because, yeah, this is like a really easy way you can start doing art without all the paint. I've mentioned this so many times, maybe in the beginning only, but with the paint palette, it's like if I'm missing a color, I'm just totally screwed. Like if I go for the red and there's no red, well, if I only have green and blue, I just don't have a full palette. And then that's it, you know. But with this, you know, there's only so many things you need. You got the ink, and then you can't really complain about anything else. I am going to... Oh, and before, you know, I like to like hype up the ink because it's like literally one of my favorite tools on the planet. But if when you start, you know, you buy some ink that's like $3 or $4 or whatever, like who cares, dude? It doesn't really matter, man. You might as well, you know, I gave the whole speech at the beginning, but, you know, if you're stuck inside, if you only have like $30 and you order some basic tools off Amazon, that's how it starts, man. All right. So I'm going to get the border going. And you guys can like ask me anything if you want. I don't know. I feel like I'm with the ink stuff. It's almost like easier for me to look at the chat. Maybe not though. We'll see. All right. And I'm kind of doing it looser intentionally because like I said, like the whole point of this stuff is I really want other people to do it. So, you know, things aren't perfect all the time. Whatever. Oh my God. I'm realizing that's why Bob Ross talks like this. It all makes sense now. He's trying to encourage people that don't know how to do it. Oh my God, I'm unlocking levels of painting broadcast understanding. All right. Oh, got the robins outside. Oh, it's so epic right now. All right. So I got at least 2 more tools I want to hit. That was way more successful than I thought it was going to be. I was really into that. So let's see how I want to do... Oh, this is how I want to do it. Perfect. I was going to say how I want to do the next part. Okay. So in here, in this little dish right now, I have, you know, the kind of gray Sumi ink that I got together. And I got the... It's kind of confusing. Let's call... Actually, I'll just move this over here. So I have the ground ink. Ground as in I grinded it. That's the correct linguistic term. So we have the ground ink that I grinded over here, and then we have the bottled Sumi ink over here. Normally, if I was working, if I wasn't like streaming and stuff, I would just have the black ink out over here. And to be completely honest with you, the only time I ever use two is if I just get kind of lazy and stupid and I just leave one of these for a few days and it dries. Then I'll just switch over to the other one. Don't start doing that though. It's a nasty road to go down. Every time you end, you want to clean up your tools and you don't want to start leaving stuff around. Because then you get in some stupid situations. This shit is so black. If you got this on clothing, never. It's never going to come out ever under any circumstances. Game over forever. You might as well just dip the whole shirt in. So, you leave this out, your sister comes through and knocks it over, and then, it's not really her fault that you left radioactive, the equivalent of radioactive material just sitting out. So you don't want to get in that kind of situation. All right, here I have something dope. This is another one of my favorite tools. This combo I'm about to show you guys actually, so this is my favorite combo. If I was a player, let's say in an RPG art situation, and I had a weapon of choice. I mean, I don't know, now it might be Photoshop, but if I had it's not very badass, honestly. But if I had a weapon of choice, it would be what I'm about to show you guys right now. And it's really, really underutilized, actually. I don't even, people know about it, but I went to school for art and people didn't use this. And if someone sees something that you did with this, they usually think it's a brush, actually. They don't actually really know what it is. So I'm letting you guys in on the secret arsenal because I care. All right, so in here, oh man, let's bring the camera down. We got this epic shit going on. If you're sensitive to focusing and unfocusing, you're gonna want to look away for a second because I'm about to focus. It's gonna be full eye doctor status right now. I'll let you know when you can look back. Can you guys hear the birds outside, man? It's so awesome. All right, I turned on autofocus for a second just so I could. Let's see, is it gonna work? Focus. We are almost there. We are not. It's not happening. Oh. Yeah? Come on. It's so worth it. Yeah. Oh, yes. There we go. Perfect. Okay. This looks badass. All right. So you can look back if you looked away for the focusing. So this is a pen tip. This is, you probably think of a Sharpie pen, that kind of pen tip. Okay. Autofocus sucks so much. It's fine for right now, though. And, okay, I keep going back and forth on if I should turn it off or not, but I think it's fine. So this is a pen tip, and you can see it has this badass, okay, it's, the autofocus sucks so much. Hold on one second. I just, if I'm going to break out the tool, I'm probably only going to hold it up to the camera one time. So look away. We're doing eye doctor status. Oh, that looks dope. That was totally worth it. That wasn't very hard at all, actually. All right, perfect. So here we got this tool. It's a piece of metal. And you can see it's actually pretty painstakingly crafted. You can see that there's this divot over here. Not a divot, but an incision over here on the side. Has this really sick trident shape on the front. And there's actually writing on it. And it's symmetrical. And the writing says, if I can turn it, nice. The writing says, hunt. Oh, there's the sweet spot. The writing says Hunt. Writing says Hunt. Imperial USA, and it's got a number. And the number is really light. Oh, you can see it. It's just engraved. You can see it just a little bit in the front. It says 101. So this company, Hunt, makes these pen tips. I'm going to focus back while I'm talking, so look away. It's eye doctor status again. That was totally worth it, though. I'm glad I showed you guys that. So this company called Hunt makes these pen tips, and they have all different sizes and all different kinds, and this is basically what people would use, what they would call a pen and the pen tip before we had the kind of mass-produced pens that we have, the Microns and the Sharpies and all that stuff. You would use something like this. So you have the pen tip, and like I said, they make all different kinds. They have some, hold up, I'm going to grab a little note card so I can show you guys over here. And let's see, what color am I going to draw on right now? Green. All right, so they have some like this, like the one I just showed you guys, where it's a point, right? It's pretty good pen tip. And it just makes a straight line. You guys will see what that makes in a second. But they also have some where it doesn't end in a point like that. Let's say maybe it ends in like a chisel tip shape, in like a flat line shape. And if you ever looked at any like old school calligraphy, yo, I wonder if I have a fucking calligraphy tip here. I probably don't, but actually I'm going to check real quick because it's totally worth it. If I don't have one, I'll order one and we'll get one going. But let me just see real quick. I'm looking under my desk. I don't have any other pen tips down here. It's fine now. You know what I do have in my toolbox though? I got this like Moscow Olympics pin. I picked this up in Bulgaria way back in the day. It says Moscow 1980. I should wear this. It's pretty sick. It's a little bonus since I had to go off camera for a second. So if you've ever seen any like old school calligraphy that is just like really tough, cool looking calligraphy, I'm going to fake the kind of pen tip it has right now, where it'll be like, wow, I got a really good result from this Crayola marker over here, where it'll have this kind of like chisel tip writing. Like if I have an S, it'll be like this. It says us right here. Yeah! Wow, I got that out of a Crayola marker right now, live on the stream. The way you would normally do this kind of like calligraphy is with this kind of tip. It has like a chisel-y tip so that when you're going, well, he just saw me do it, but it's angled, right? So when you're coming this way, it's super thick, but when you're coming this way, it's super thin. You can imagine if I dip this in ink and just wrote with it, since just the edge is touching it, going this way it would just be a thin line, going this way it would be super thick. That's how you get that kind of like badass, like medievally looking calligraphy. There's pen tips like that. There's pen tips for all kind of things. This is my favorite one, and I think it's the best for drawing. You can see it came in a box. I usually order like 10 of them or so at once. You could just order a few, I guess, if you just wanted to try it out. And the pen tip fits into what's called a pen holder. So it's kind of confusing because you think of a pen holder like a bag to like hold your pens or something. But this is a pen tip. This is sorry, I'm trying to be very specific, so if you go look into this, you can get the right thing. This would be called a pen. This would be called the pen tip. So it fits in over here, and you can see it has this like set opening. There's like this circle. And depending on what the radius of the circle is, only certain ones are going to fit in. So you can see these two fit together, right? Pretty much inevitably, if you get into this at some point, you're going to buy a bunch of pen tips. They're not going to fit in your pen. It's all right. When you go buy them, it'll tell you what fits into what, basically. It'll tell you that. So, if you get like some speedball pens, it'll say, fits pen holders A and B and D. So it doesn't fit number C, right? You can just check like the compatibility. It's kind of like, hardware or like programming or whatever, Anyway, this is one of my favorite drawing tools. And let's see, I'm just going to go for it. Just going for it last time worked out so well. So the way this works is that it actually operates on like a pretty brilliant mechanism. When I dip this into the ink, because of the way this is carved in the back, perfect. Because of the way this is carved in the back, there's going to be like a bubble of ink like held underneath. And then when I'm writing, I'm going to bring it in closer. It's definitely worth it. All right, hold up. We are zooming in more. Eventually, I'll have two cameras, and I'll just keep one zoomed in and one zoomed out. But the studio is not at that level yet where we're dropping like hundreds of dollars on cameras. So you guys get to be in on the first. Oh, wait, there we go. I didn't warn you guys. We're going eye doctor status. Damn, the Sumi ink looks sick with this focus right now. There we go. Perfect. This is focused enough. We'll just be really quick here, but it's really, really worth showing. So I really like this pen because, look, you can write really small, but you can see when I push harder, you can see that it opens. So what happens is there's a bubble of ink stored in the back underneath this metal situation. And if you press really hard, the 2 points separate and controlledly spill out the ink. So I really love this tool a lot, actually, because you can write paper thin. I'm talking, and we're gonna focus again, so I'll tell you to look back in case you're sensitive to that. You can get lines going. Let's get a little closer than that, actually. You can get lines going paper thin, not paper thin, but like a hair, and you can also get lines pretty thick. Let's see, are we in focus right now? Yeah, we are actually. Okay, so I'm gonna dip this in over here. I see if people ask me questions, I will hit that in a second. I'll hit that when I change tools. I'm going to change tools again soon. But so when I work this way, I have an extra piece of paper over here because I like to it's kind of like, just calibrating it. I like to just touch a paper and just make sure we're all good. It's like when you pick up the salad tongs and you click them instinctually. That's like what this paper's for over here, just making sure things are okay. And then you can see that over here, I don't really know what I'm going to draw. Maybe I'll draw like an owl or something. But you can get these like these razor thin lines going. So right here, let's say I'm going to draw an owl right now. Why not? So you can get these like really, really thin lines going. But you can also get some really thick ones going too. So I'm going to dip it back in over here. You can probably see what I'm doing is I'm just really slightly touching the pen tip to this block over here. Actually, you can see on the camera, you see these like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of little marks. That's what that is. It's actually bad that I'm doing this because it's kind of really annoying to get off and I have to really scrub it to do it, but I'm doing it anyway, whatever. So you can see I can get these really thin lines, but also if I'm going pretty hard, oh, come on. I might need to put more ink in to get it fully dipped in. That's why it's doing that. Yeah, I think I do actually. I need to put more ink in here. It needs to be thick enough so I can just dig in fully and really saturate like the whole point. So I had to put out kind of a lot of ink. If I did this again, I'd probably have like a bottle cap or something in there just so I could have a little vessel holding like more ink, but it's fine. All right, so let's see. There we go. So you can see I can also get some pretty thick lines going. So it's kind of nice because it's so responsive. It really responds to exactly what you're doing. So like if I just get it, like, it's kind of why I picked an owl. If I get these like kind of like light, like frantic lines going on, it'll respond to that. If I want to get some like really thin, like controlled, perfect lines going on, it'll respond to that. But if I also want to get that kind of like, frankly, like a little schizo, like intense energy going on, I can also get a little bit of that going. So let's see what I can get going over here. I'm gonna try and get that going on. Cool. You get a very like old school comic-y sometimes look with this in a good way. Sometimes it's really conducive to like this kind of like hatching shading going on that people really respond to sometimes. And then like look, the ink's wet, so when you get the hatching kind of picks up the ink from here before. And let's say I got like the moon over here. We'll get the moon in behind this owl. You can get kind of like these lines going on, and then when you come in with the hatching, maybe it like leaves this kind of like bright moonlight. And then maybe on the moon, you can even get like some of that. Actually, I'll tell you guys, the shading on the moon, you guys know what I'm talking about? Those like dark spots. Those are called mare. It's the plural of the Latin word for ocean because they actually thought they were oceans on the moon back in the day. They thought those dark spots were oceans, so they're called mare. I don't call it that when I'm talking with normal people because you sound like a fucking dick, but now you guys know. Let's see. Kind of separate this owl from the back over here. Yeah. And I don't like how I put the beak in, so I'm going to kind of like cut back in. I'm going to get a little bit of the shadow going on the beak. Yeah, that looks dope. We have another like little shadowy spot over here going on. And then I kind of want a little bit of like a... You can hear it. I'm sure you can hear that from the mic. You can hear it scraping the paper. It's awesome. It's one of the reasons why I love this tool. It's so like tactile. All right, and let's get in this eye over here. Honestly, the eye we could go in with the brush, but I don't really want to do that. I want to keep it like kind of like pure with this one tool, so we can sense its character. You know what I mean? We can really like feel it out. And you can see I'm kind of taking the spirit a little bit, you could say, of that like controlled chaos element. I'm not holding the pen like super tight. Ooh, that looks fucking chill. And I'm kind of letting it, I'm kind of like half controlling it, half not. It's kind of like when you see someone cutting vegetables sometimes and you have to tell them, let the knife do the work. It's kind of what I'm doing now. I'm like letting pen do a lot of the work. Let's see, I want to get some like dark shit going on over here. Yeah, so get a little bit of the feathers going on. Yeah, the tactile sensations, dude. Yeah, it's awesome, man. I know. It's really chill. Have you ever thought about streaming on DLive? Yeah, I have actually. I did it once before. I'll probably do it on Saturday. The only reason I didn't do it this week is because I have people subscribed on YouTube, and then when I streamed on DLive, they were like, "Oh my god, I didn't get a notification." Like, what? But I kind of like using DLive sometimes. I only did it once, but it feels a little bit less like the spotlight's on me. Like on YouTube, it's like I'm on YouTube. Like it has to be like really good. But on DLive, it's like it just feels a little bit more comfortable, I guess you could say. So yeah, I'll probably do that again. Damn, I love how this looks already. And you can see over here the ink's really shiny. When that dries, it'll be a nice like dark, dark spot. When I'm putting in the eye over here, so what I want to do is I want to leave like a shine, some shines in the eye, and make it look kind of like wet. Eyes are like kind of wet naturally. It sounds weird, but if you just kind of like accidentally leave, quote unquote accidentally, like not really accidentally, but if you just leave some of the spots in there. Yeah, there we go. I don't know if you guys can see because it's so shiny, but it looks dope. When it dries, it's going to look sick. You can get some of this fat black in here. Yeah, it's way too shiny for you guys to see. Let me see. I don't want to fuck up the lighting too much. I guess maybe that's better for the ink section right now. And then you guys can at least see it. I know it's like a little dark. Let's see if I bump up the exposure real quick. Maybe this will be good. Can't tell. Yeah, I guess it's better. I guess it's better for now. Let's see. We'll fuck around with it a little bit. Anyway, so some of you guys have been sketching with microns, with like the micron pens. And if you have been doing that, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll break out a micron in a second. But if you have been doing that, you can probably immediately... Actually, I don't like the exposure so high. I'm willing to hear... Actually, I guess it is better. I want to see if I can just get that shine off the ink. Because it's kind of like harshing the vibe. Yeah, that's good. That's pretty good. We'll roll with this for a second. So if you don't know what I'm talking about with the microns, I'll show you in a second. But here you can see like the pen is so responsive. It's like fucking insane. Oh, I'm actually loving this because I haven't used this tool in like so long. Let's get the other eye in. Maybe I'll just finish this drawing of an owl up real quick. And you get a really cool look. You get a really cool look. People don't really know like what to think about it. It has kind of like an old school vibe. You can tell it's done with like some analog tool. Oh, yeah. But maybe not. It has a very like etching style quality. And like I'm just going to put this in like loose. Let's see how this looks. Let's see what I can get going. I kind of put the other eyebrow in like really tight. Let's see. I got to get a little visual information up here, but I don't want to put like too much in. Let's get some patches of like color and stuff. Here we go. So actually, if you go to pick this stuff up, get it on Amazon. You don't want to go to the store right now, right? But you're going to see something called a crow quill pen, and that's actually called that because they used to make this stuff out of like bird feathers and things like that. Yo, how good does that fucking look right now? Yeah. I've been meaning to break this out to do some illustrations with in the studio, so you guys are the first ones seeing the vibe, but I can tell when I deploy it. I used to make comics like this back in another lifetime. I switched over to digital just for a variety of reasons that I don't need to go into right now, but you know, if you start doing comic-y stuff like this, people really respond to it, and it kind of makes it look like you know what you're doing right off the bat if you use like really good tools. Come back in over here. Yeah. I kind of like how crazy the owl looks. But let's see, maybe I'll tame it up a little bit. And yeah, the other thing about black and white, like I said, is you really are just working with the lights and the darks, and it'll get you a lot better feeling of like how to use the lights and the darks. Let's see, maybe I'll get a few more little things coming on over here. I'm not going to draw the whole owl, but kind of did make a little like drawing of it, so. That looks pretty fucking dope, man. All right, cool. I can't stop. The tool's using me. All right. Let's chill for a second. Yeah, that looks really chill, man. That looks really chill. I really like that a lot. And you can see, you can get a really good look. Like, let's say, what I'm planning on doing, what I'll do for the studio, for some graphics, for posting on Twitter and stuff like that. In fact, I don't know if I can say this or not. A certain person on Twitter that you definitely know, who I hang out with online, has a podcast about technology wars. They asked me to illustrate something that it might happen, it might not, doesn't really matter, but I feel like this is very suited for that style where it's almost like kind of like literary in a way, and you get a really good look. Like if I start writing over here, like let's say I just write like, let's say I was illustrating a poem and I'm writing like, you get a very like 1800s look. It's like the 1800s tool. And maybe you get a little, yeah, you get a little writing going on. The owl, and then I don't know, some poem. It's the owl poem or something. You know, you get a little. You can get a really good look, and yeah, I really like how this looks. I'm gonna stop in a second, but I just want to see. Once you get like 3 lines of writing, you can really see the quality. And yeah, it has a very like people used to write with these things, so you know. Cool. Well, that was fucking fun as hell. Damn. Technically, you're supposed to use alcohol to clean these things. I'm just dipping mine in water right now. That means eventually it could rust, but it's fine right now. I didn't really get the alcohol prepped beforehand. If you order this kind of thing, so you can see. So check it out. So with just a brush, the pen tip, the Sumi ink. You should get some kind of vessel, but you could even use like plastic from like a Chinese food takeout situation. Like you don't need to get anything fancy. I mean, you're good, and paper. Obviously, you need paper. From that, you're good to go. You could live the whole rest of your life only using those tools, and you would never exhaust it. You would never get to a point where you're like, oh, well, I'm so over like the ink and everything. So I highly recommend that. It's a really, really, really powerful setup. If you don't have that much money and you want to like, you've been sketching maybe, or maybe you haven't been, but you want to like step it up, that's a really good setup. Is the Sumi ink. You don't have to get this kind. You can get like less expensive inks, you know, especially if you're just starting out. The pen with the pen tip, a brush, something like that. Like I said, you're good to go with that. I could just draw with the pen. Maybe I'll come back to it, honestly. I'm not really sure. But there's one more tool I want to make sure I hit. I have no idea how long I've been going. Every time I check the time, it's been an hour. It's been an hour and 7 minutes. Damn, I can't believe that. So yeah, I want to hit one more tool at least. Well, there's one more tool I want to hit, and then we'll see where we're at. I'll take some questions now while I'm kind of just like reconfiguring the space. I'm going to bring the camera back out real quick. Sorry, I should have warned you guys that it was going to be like Shaky Town. I'm going to bring the light. So it's going to be Shaky Town for like a second. I guess, can I tighten that? Oh, I can. I'm still learning how to use the camera, obviously. I'm going to bring this light back in. There we go. I'm going to turn down the exposure. So I'll answer some questions while I'm just like reconfiguring the space here. Do I have any comments concerning how rapidly advancing technology is affecting our society? Yeah, I made a comic about it. It's on my website under comics. But yeah, it's crazy, man. I mean, I saw some poster the other day that said like, or maybe someone tweeted it. I mean, I know it was online. I just don't know if it was on Twitter or another site. And it said something like, every new technology requires a new war or something. And I just feel like my main take on that is like, technology starts to, oh look, it's the last page. So if you've been with us the whole time, we used the whole block of watercolor paper. And in case you didn't really understand what I was saying before, you can see this paper, right? It's warped now. If I gave this to someone, they'd be like, wow, it's dope, but it's warped. It's not like nice because there was nothing holding the sides. This paper, you can actually see it's kind of like trying to warp. I don't want to tilt it and like spill the ink, but maybe you can see. It's like, yeah, you can see a little bit. It's like trying to warp, but it can't because it's held down on the sides. So we'll just leave that. This one dried. Looks pretty fresh if you ask me. That was a surprise hit. That was a surprise hit. Yeah, what was I going to say? Oh, you're talking about technology? Yeah, I mean, it's just this weird thing where, like, whenever it advances, this is kind of like cliche, I didn't, like, come up with this take, but it just strips a human element from the sphere that it inhabits, and we don't control that anymore, and it's really fucking crazy. Like in the comic I made, the best example is like the CD store. I used to enjoy going to CD stores. It used to be. I'm not that old. I'm like in my late 20s, but I don't know how young you guys are. Like I used to be able to go to a store that was like full of CDs and look through them and look at the album art, and you could like at a station where you could listen to them, and there'd be stuff you never heard of, and it was pretty dope. And then people got iPods, and then now it's all on iTunes, and then all the CD stores went out of business, right? So now that whole experience of like driving to the CD store with my friend, right? We used to go together and like picking up something and getting home. That whole experience has been like taken out of like society. But like, who voted on that? I mean, who asked? Did anyone ask like, hey, do you guys want us to close all the CD stores and now for the rest of your life you're gonna get everything on like Spotify and iTunes? I mean, no one voted on that, right? And I feel like that transition from like calling my friend, let's go to the mall, we're going to the store to get a CD, we're listening to it on the drive home, this is really cool. There's an arrow pointing to, now I just go to iTunes and it's click, click. And I used to hold my CDs and like remember them and be like, oh my God, I got this with like Tim, like at the mall. Like now none of that exists anymore. That vector of change is being applied to every sphere in society. And we don't have any control over it. You can't resist it. I mean, I think I'm a little bit older than the average person that hangs out on Twitter. I'm like late 20s, like I said. But like I used to not have a smartphone. And when I used to get a job, I'd tell them I didn't have a smartphone and they'd be like, oh, cool. And then 1 year, I remember very well, it changed. And they were like, are you fucking kidding? You don't have a smartphone? You need one for this job. And it like changed. And it wasn't just that job. It was like, things rapidly changing. And you could say whether that's like fair or not or whatever, but I mean, maybe it is, maybe it's not, but no one votes on it, and it'll only keep happening. It'll only keep accelerating, and like the human element will be like more rapidly stripped from society at like an exponential rate. And who knows what's going to happen after that? Good question. Take one more question. Are art supplies mostly priced according to quality, or there are some brand names that are overpriced for their quality, like Beats headphones? Yo, that's a good question, man. Actually pretty much in the art sphere, I think pretty much you're going to get what you pay for, actually. There is some level of like democracy, because if something was like way overpriced, artists kind of know what they're getting usually. So you can always ask me if anyone's like on Amazon and they're like, shit, I don't know if I'm getting ripped off right now. You can definitely ask me. But yeah, in general, you get what you pay for. Some brands are better than others. Actually, it's not really, well, I'm sure there are some like overpriced brands. I wouldn't know because I don't buy them. But like, what's really more likely to happen to you is that there's some brands that are a little bit less expensive that like aren't shitty. It's like as you're climbing up the ranks, when you're on the lower ranks, it's like there's some total shit and some stuff that's like not so bad classed together. And then as you climb up to the top of the pyramid of expensiveness, then things kind of level out and everything's like pretty good. Yeah. If anyone's buying art supplies and you're like, yo, I really don't know if I'm getting ripped off right now, definitely feel free to hit me up. Okay. So I'm changing the tool situation, and we ran out of watercolor paper unexpectedly, but it just so happens to be the case that I got another fat pad. Actually, it's not that fat, but I got another pad right here, which is perfect. It's kind of too big for the camera, but it doesn't really matter. All right, I'm going to refocus the camera real quick. I'll just put this back on so I can focus this real quick. I think it might actually be focused, but I just want to check. So we're doing the eye doctor thing one more time. And we're going to go back down. I think it's pretty good. I think that's good. It's fine for right now. Okay. So, got 3 picks going on in one night. We're going crazy right now. And hey, actually, just really quick, I will just illustrate what I'm talking about with the pens. So, I recommend these kind of pens for sketching if you're like going out and sketching, or if you're just starting out. Not that these are bad. I'm not saying like, oh, eventually you graduate from these. Like I use these every day in the studio, every single day without exception. But you can see the difference. Like with this, obviously it's like a felt tip pen, and I'm just gonna draw on this. Doesn't really matter. But you can see I'm never gonna get that life. You know, this has like a life to it. You can feel that it's like alive because every aspect of my hand was like transferred into it. With this, you always have kind of the opposite. The lines are always like, it's a little bit more controlled. And eventually, you know, you can get better at this. Like you can get like thin lines and then get them to like be thick also, but you're never going to have that like rough and tumble, lively feel that you have going on here. It's just a different tool. Doesn't mean one's better or one's worse, but I just wanted to illustrate the difference real quick, just so you know what's going on. Okay, so there's one more thing I wanted to hit. This is another one of my favorite tools over here. Wow, it looks fucking awesome on the camera. I don't want to zoom out too much more, so I'll just show you guys real quick and then I'll move it off screen. So we've been talking about water soluble and what's not water soluble and all that stuff. Whoa, my chair was lower than I thought. These are called water soluble color pencils. They're called watercolor pencils. No one knows about these. No one knows these exist, man. It's nuts. Like I said, I went to art school. I guess that's like obvious at this point. And people just don't know these exist. I only know about these because like I said, there's no record of this. Doesn't matter. I used to work in this art store for a long time. And I found these there. But I really don't think most people know about them. And it's really dope because they are colored pencils. So obviously you can see they're colored pencils. But the binder inside the pigment is water soluble. So that means that they're colored pencils, but after you hit them with water, they turn into watercolor. So it's kind of like, I'm just going to outline this. It's almost the perfect size. One more time. We're moving the camera. Sorry, guys. Fuck. Well, I just doxed my printer. Now you guys know what kind of printer I have. I can't get it to be stable. If you're sensitive to the movement, just look away for 1 second. All right, there we go. Cool. It's really lucky that my face is like not on the axis that the camera moved, but also it kind of keeps things lively. Okay, so I'm just going to draw my own little border in here real quick. It's not going to be perfect, but who cares? Could use a thicker pen, but who cares? Sometimes it's kind of nice to get the obviously hand-drawn frame going on. It's an aesthetic. It's going to fit the aesthetic that we're doing right now. It's a pretty good line. All right, cool. So I need a new brush. And I guess I'll unpack the brush situation just to, well, I don't know, it's so technical. Do I really want to take it there right now? Let's see, I'm going to grab another brush. Let's see. Let's use, well, see, some of them. So the thing with the Sumi ink is like once you use a brush for the Sumi ink, not that it's always going to have black in it like that, but it's kind of hard to get like all the black out. So I have some brushes I use for Sumi ink and some that I don't. For what we're doing right now, so actually, I'll kind of narrate like what I'm thinking. So I grabbed this brush. You can't see because it's black on black. I grabbed this brush. It's pretty medium-sized brush, but what we're about to do right now, you don't really want something like that. I love the weapons metaphor, so we want like a bazooka, flamethrower. We want like a big fucking fat brush right now. Technically, so watercolor brushes, this is just something you'll learn if you like watch a show with me a lot. I don't know how hard I'm going to go into this right now. But watercolor brushes that are meant to be used with ink and watercolor and stuff like that, they have short handles. You can see most of these handles are short. This one has a super long handle, which means that actually it's not meant to be used for watercolor. It doesn't really matter. Let's get a few brushes out. Let's see. This is really exactly what I want. This is like a number 12 probably. Yeah, all the brushes are numbered in terms of their size. This is a number 12. 12 is a good like bazooka size if you're going to go for it. This one, these faux squirrel hair brushes, I've used them for ink a lot, and I don't really want to like wrestle with that on stream right now. So I think we'll be good with these. This kind of chisel brush, don't get this, dude. You see this flat brush over here? You think, so here's the thing. You think you want this, you're going to start, let's say you start painting. you see these square brushes in the store and you're like, oh, that's dope. That's how I get like impressionist style. Oh, square. You don't really want these. I mean, you can get them if you want, but people only started making and using these after impressionism got going and people realized that, people would buy these brushes. But back in the day, all brushes are what's called round. These are round brushes. That's what you really should be using, honestly. So I feel like a chump having this in here, but it's fine. Other people aren't as pretentious about that, but after I learned they only started making those after like chunky, Cezanne style painting became popular, I was like, fuck, that is the only reason why I got that. I got fucking played. All right, let's just see how clean this brush is real quick. So yeah, you got round brushes. That's like all the brushes you've seen me use here so far. Oh, it's good. It's clean. Nice. You can see there's no pigment coming off of it. We're good. What you're going to do is you're going to always clean your brushes. You're never going to have that question of if they're clean or not. You're going to do everything perfectly. So yeah, you have the round brushes. You have the square brushes I just showed you. The other kind of brushes you'll get, they're called filbert. It's the coolest name for the brushes. But when the brush ends, it ends with like a cat's tongue. That's what they call it. It ends with like a lump. So the brushes, the hairs are like tapered to be in this like lump in shape. Those are okay, but you should really just get round brushes. All right. So I'm kind of excited to dive into these real quick. Here's one more little tip just before we dive in. I'll take one that needs to be sharpened. So obviously pencils, sometimes you need to sharpen them, right? Duh. I'll do it on another stream. I'm not going to do it right now because it would just take a little bit too much effort. It would take too much time, honestly. Eventually, I'll show you guys how to sharpen brushes with a knife. That's what you really want to be doing. This kind of shit is just like chump status. I mean, I use it, but if you're really going hard, you want to use a knife. And when you get one of these, your instinct is to do it like this, like how you've always been doing this your whole life, right? You want to be turning the pencil. It's not actually how you want to do it. When you're doing it art style, you want to hold the pencil and you want to turn the metal thing, which seems weird at first, but the problem is if you're turning the pencil instead of the metal thing, you're actually making these tight little circles while you're turning it, but you don't realize it, and you break the tip. So a lot of people, when they start doing this, they'll just be like snapping and snapping and snapping the tips of their pencils, and they don't know why, and that's why. Also, what I'm doing right now, sharpening this onto a surface, is really stupid because you can see all these little flakes coming off. These are all hardcore toxic pigments that I really don't want floating around the studio. So the fact that I'm not doing this into a container is really stupid, but it's cool. I'm going to put it into a container right now. I just did that quickly so I could show you guys what's going on. Cool. Now you can see you got the nice tip. But if I was doing it the other way, turning the pencil, you can actually see I'm making little circles. You accidentally snap the tip. Then right when you start working, the tip breaks off. You get frustrated. You stop making art. You start drinking, become an alcoholic, your girlfriend breaks up with you, you live in your car, under a bridge, your friends don't talk to you anymore, no one knows what happens to you. That's what happens if you hold the pencil and not the sharpener. Okay, so what I want to do right now, I'm trying to think of what color I should start with. Well, let's just start with red. Red's kind of the first color. So, like I was just saying, these, the pigment in them, so the binder in here, is water soluble. So when these hit water, they become watercolors. I'm actually going to turn the paper around real quick. And let's just lay some down right here. The kind that I'm using, these are called Faber-Castell. That's the brand. They're the best watercolor pencils. The quality of the pigment is so high. It's really awesome. Anyone would notice that. It's not like a subtle difference. Not like the viewer, not like someone you're showing the art to, but just you using them, you would notice that for sure. But they're pretty expensive. So if you start with, something like down a tier, it's really not a big deal. I'll mention the brand again, but Faber-Castell is the best one. But if you don't want to drop that much money, they are pretty expensive. And like I said before, right off the bat, if you're paranoid about money, there's no point in getting something too expensive. Prismacolor is really good. Prismacolor has really good watercolor pencils that are, in that price range. They're not too expensive at all. Okay, so I'm wetting this brush. So you can see when I hit this with water, perfect, it's just going to become watercolor. So it's nice because the thing about watercolor is that it's really, really hard to control. You have this tube of paint And then, you have a brush, and people aren't really used to using brushes, and how do you get the tight lines and everything. But you can see with the pencil, it's really, really easy to deploy the pigment. And it's not very messy. It's very well controlled. Nice, that looks dope. Cool. It's really easy for you to go back in with the water. So this is kind of like the cheat code for doing watercolor stuff. The other cool thing is that, so I'm going to lay down some water up over here. I'll make an actual like picture or something in a second, but for right now I'm just showing you guys. You can go back in and draw into the wet, and it kind of has like a different quality when you come back and like paint into the wet. So in a second, when I draw something, we'll be able to get kind of a cool look. Let's see if maybe I'll come back even here with a different color. I can see over here it's starting to like dry already, but here in the middle it's not very dry. And then let's see, what if I come back in with the water? So you can lay down some orange. So this is a good way to kind of like bridge the gap between drawing and painting also, because everyone's very comfortable with, oh, look at that. Nice. Everyone's very like comfortable with using pencils and things like that, but you also get the nice like loose look that you are sometimes looking for if you're doing like painterly stuff. You can already see that this looks pretty dope, even though I'm just like laying down color, kind of like not really doing anything. Cool, cool. And then once again, you can go back in, kind of like bridge that gap between like drawing and painting. Yeah, someone said this is blowing my mind. That's awesome, man. Yeah. So let's say down here, you can also see the brush that I'm using is a little too small. I'm faking these big water strokes, but I should really have a bigger brush. I'll have a bigger brush in a second. Then once you get that orange, let's say I want to put some of that orange up here. I mean, look how nice this color is, right? It's tight. I'm not even like trying or planning anything out right now. It already looks pretty dope. Cool. Let's say I want to get a little bit more going on. So yeah, let's put some yellow down. I'll give you guys the full kind of like pitch of the watercolor pencils. Cool. And this was my jam for a while. Honestly, I mean, I'm not like talking down to the material. Like you could look at that yellow. It just like fucking explodes. It totally just explodes. That's, you get this with any materials, but just the quality of the pigment, it's like poof, it just fucking comes out so hard. I love it. It's such a good way of like using color. Look how fucking dope this looks. Like I didn't even fucking paint anything. Didn't even paint anything. Oh, you know what I'm gonna do right now? You know what I'm gonna do right now since this isn't anything? Where's the ink? Let's do it. Let's fucking just yeah. Let's just fucking drop this in here. Let's see what happens. Let's see if I just get some like black going on. I just kind of want to show you guys like what you can get going on, because people will be like, wow, how'd you do that? Like wow, you made that? That's really cool. Yeah, look at that. Come on. Don't you want this happening in front of your face right now? You're quarantined. What are you doing right now? You're not doing this. Come on, what are you doing? Spend like $50. Get this going in your life. Oh, look at that. How satisfying is that? I could just sit here all night, fucking laying down water, laying down color. Yeah. It looks dope. Cool. Let's see. What if I come back in with some gray? Even maybe it's not even like the full darkness. I really want to get like just the gray, but yeah, it's like too much. I'm wiping the pigment off the brush. I'm dipping it just in the water. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, and then if I come back, check this out. If I come back, I can kind of pull the pigment back. Yeah. You can get some really serious shit going on. So like you can imagine if I was doing this. I don't know what I'm gonna do in a second, but yeah, it's so fucking dope. Yeah, man, for real, for real. And this was a big part of my illustration practice. before I started doing digital. Just so you guys know, I used to only do analog stuff, and then I kind of had to like, I was like that artist who was like, no, fuck it, I don't need to like make money. And then I kind of hit this wall, and I was like, shit, I really need to like step up like the commercial aspect of my art a little bit. So I went away from like painting for a while, but I've been doing it. I haven't really been posting it on Twitter, but so yeah, like how fucking sick is this? Let's see. Maybe I'll just pull a little bit of the black out. Almost looks like a planet. Let's see. And also you can get kind of like the dry brush. Like look at that dry brush. So then you have this like nice mix of textures. Texture is a big part of painting if you want to take it there. Let's move this down a little bit. I feel like we should just get a little more black in. I don't know what this is, but I kind of feel like it's just calling for like a little more black. And we'll come back up. We'll come back around this way. I don't like how controlled that looks, so I want to just, yeah. Oh, that soft, fuzzy brush stroke. Dude, I'm telling you, man, even if you don't make anything that like quote unquote looks good, it just feels badass to be wielding. Look at that. Look at that fucking, like, oh, it's too shiny. Look at that. That's just like, oh, the way it bleeds out. I mean, that is just satisfying. I'm so satisfied right now. Honestly, I really am. Yeah, I don't like how that like, I mean, it doesn't matter. There's just some abstract shit, but I felt like that was kind of just like too perfect. Cool. All right. Kind of looks like a multicolored skull. Yeah, for real. It does. Wow, that was really satisfying. I didn't even make a picture of anything. So yeah, that's a really good example what I just did right here of how you get these effects bleeding out and how you're kind of controlling it but not really. One of my favorite pictures I ever made actually was just a picture of an apple and a mango that I set up on my table, and I just hung this like tablecloth behind it, and I painted it like this, just like super loose, like digging in. And you really will like surprise yourself for sure. You can get some really cool shit going. And again, it's kind of that mix of I'm not controlling it 100%. I'm like the movie director who's putting this here, just like watching things happen. But you're also like in control of it because it's like your picture. So let's see what we want to do with that. Let's see what we want to do with that. I'm going to turn this page over to our little frame over here. I mean, I could make some kind of skull or something. I'm very confident that would look really tight. Actually, there is something else under my desk, and I'm kind of wondering if I'm about to break it out right now. I kind of feel like I should. We all got into that real quick. Hold on one second. I'm just gonna pull a little material. You can probably hear it. So I haven't used these in a really long time. Let's see. I want to find the right color. So what I'm grabbing right now, I'm assuming you guys can still hear me. I'm not that far away. Let's see. I really want to find the blue one. I'm grabbing this radiant watercolor out from under my desk, and what this shit is this is pretty good. It's basically like hyper concentrated watercolor that you get in these like little vials. I actually might order some more. This used to be like another staple of my practice. Oh, I found the blue. I found the blue. I found some fucking heavy weaponry under the table right here. I got red orange going on. Let's see. Might as well grab them all at this point. That's all I got. I used up all the Virgin Mary blue. I have this color I call Virgin Mary blue. But I used it all up, so we'll have to do that next time. Okay, so what I pulled out from under the table. So what I just showed you guys, the watercolor pencils, all that stuff. That stuff you can like easily get. What I'm about to use right now, what I'm about to deploy, you can get this too. It's called Dr. Martens, not like Doc Martens, the shoe, although that is an interesting coincidence. Radiant watercolor. I pulled off the labels on mine just because I kind of like my shit to look like more aesthetic. So I just peeled the labels off. You can almost see, this one's purple. You can almost see like through the jar. But I keep these around, and so the thing about these, the reason I stopped using them is that you're about to see when I use them, it's like hyper concentrated color. Like, it's insane. I mean, I don't want to hype it up too much. I don't know how dope it'll be, but theoretically, it's like hyper concentrated color. The problem is, though, that it's a little chemical, and it will fade over time eventually. So after like, X number of years, it'll fade. So I kind of stopped using it because it's like, you know, how much do I want to get attached to this if I can't even, like, you know, use it for archival work? And that sounds like, you know, at first, so whenever I tell people that, especially like younger artists, honestly, I sound pretentious saying that, but I just used to work with people who are like younger, so, and sometimes they'd ask me for advice. Is at first you're like, I don't fucking care, dude, like, let's get it going. Like, I'm going to do this, like, whatever, like 40 years, like, who cares? But after you've been doing art for like 5 or 10 years, you know, even like 3 or 4 years, sometimes you can go back and look at something, and then if it's faded, you're like, oh, that sucks actually. Like, now it just doesn't exist anymore. Like, even on some of these labels, like, look, this label, it used to have a drawing on it in the purple ink underneath the stain. It used to have a drawing. It's completely faded. It's not even there anymore. This right over here, this used to have a drawing on it. You can only kind of see it now. It's totally faded. This one, this color, so I bet if I shake this up, you can see the color. So this is this kind of like auburn. It's like a golden yellow. And you can see I drew this key on it, but you can't even really see it. It's faded too much. So whatever. But yeah, at first you're like, it doesn't matter. So that's why I never got more of these. I just have them around the studio, but why not? Why not? See if we can deploy them. So yeah, what should I draw right now? Well, maybe I will do the skull. I'll do a skull because I want to use the colors in like a very particular way. So what I'm going to do, I kind of wish I didn't put this frame down, but it's fine. We can incorporate it into the picture. I'm going to lay down an area of wetness. We probably won't even be able to see the area. And then I'm going to take this purple. Purple might be too dark, but you know, why not? And I'm just going to drop it down. That actually looks pretty dope. We'll see how that fuzzes out. And then what I'm going to do is put the other eye socket in. And I'm going to make it purple also. I wanted to use a different color, but we're just hanging out. So let's see how this shit goes. Boom. Yeah. Okay. And I'm going to throw in the nose. I could put the nose in a different color, but I'm not going to. Maybe we'll just stick with purple. So I'm just going to touch this and you'll watch it go. Boom. And it'll go back and inhabit that shape of the nose that I put in, maybe. I mean, I could put another drop in the top. There we go. I don't know if I should have done that, but it's fine. Now we're going to put in the top of the skull, and this is where we'll really get it going. So I can't see, just so you don't think you're missing something, I can't see where I'm putting down the water. I'm just kind of like going for it. And then where's that purple? I'm just going to fucking put a huge drop. Oh, look at that. Yeah. Fuck yeah, dude. How satisfying is that? I moved the light so you guys can see it flow out in like real time. And then what I think I'll do, just to make sure we can see it, is just get the 1, 2 going on over there. And I'm even going to blow on it a little bit. I don't want to put my face in the camera, but... And actually, so above the skull, we can get other colors going too. I'm going to drop... Yeah, the way it spreads out looks really sick, dude. You can kill a few years of your life doing this shit. I did, actually. Boom. Let's get a little teal in there. The teal's a little dark, but it might dry a little bit lighter. It might not. And, you know, just since we're fucking around here, I'm going to put a little yellow in the eyes. I don't know how it's going to look really, but I'm just kind of want to get that in there. And I'm going to dry up the yellow because I don't want it to just be like hanging out like it's a huge blob. So I'm like vacuuming up the color right now. I'm like straight up vacuuming it up. And I'm just going to come in and paint in even a little bit. I'm going to paint in like a little bit with the paper towel that I'm holding. Yellow and purple was kind of an interesting call. I did it partially because I thought they wouldn't really work together. But it's actually kind of dope. And I'm just going to paint in a little bit over here. With the green going on. And I'm just kind of like arbitrarily going with the colors here. You guys can imagine if I like planned out the colors a little bit. You know, it could be way doper, but Why bother? Yeah, this looks pretty dope, but I don't really want it to be like all white. Let's see. Let's push the lighting a little bit. What we really need is this needs to be like darker right here. Yeah, there we go. And cool. I don't know what to do with this little fucking like thing that I have going on over here. I need like a garbage can. The garbage can is too far away. Yeah, it has a very tie-dye feel to it. Honestly, I was supposed to be showing you guys the watercolor pencils, but I don't know. I feel like we all had like a moment. Maybe it was just me with the other material, so I thought we might as well just like, you know, I forgot how dope it is just like watching that stuff unfold. So I thought we should just, you know, lean into it a little bit. We'll go back to the watercolor pencils in a second. This is like a heavy detour, but look at that. I mean, come on. You don't want that on the stream right now? Look at this. Ugh, yes. So it looks dope. And you can even see, you get these like really dope, like weird effects over here. And right now I'm doing like 100% like whatever the hell you want to call this vibe. But the point that I'm showing you, you know, I'm like kind of comically illustrating how much you can, you know, play with like how much you're controlling things or not. You know, yeah, this is like 100% on one side, like not controlling anything and just letting like it be like a kind of like psychedelic mess a little bit on purpose. But you know, I'm kind of just showing that there is like a spectrum you can play with. So I wanted to get a little bit of, I know that really changed it a lot, but I just wanted to get it going. And then do you guys know what I'm going to fucking do right now? You know what we need to do right now is we're going to put in the fucking black, dude. Obviously, we're putting in the black. Ugh, duh. Yeah. Oh, look at that. Fuck yeah, dude. The black is just so thick and awesome. It's like the thickest black. We got to put some black in the eyes. We literally just have to. Yeah, fuck yeah, dude. Look at that. Looks sick. Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. That little like hook. And I want to get some of the gray going on over here. Like some gray. Look, this could be a book cover right here. Tell me you wouldn't fucking pick this book up. Maybe it'll be a little too much, but I don't know. I think it looks dope. What I really want, it's going to be a little dangerous, but I'm going to try and get the ink off this brush. And I want to like tone down this white over here, and it would look really, really tight. But I don't know how much I can get it. Yeah, that's perfect. And then if I did that, so you can see it started to pull the black up and I had to like run away. Probably want to also just get a little bit of that gray over here, a little bit of that gray, maybe a little bit over there. That might have been a little too much. So I'm going to go back in. Let's see, I want to get this out. Yeah, that's good. Nice. Looks dope. And I don't know, do I want to push the black up in here a little bit? Yeah, I kind of do actually. The thing about a skull and stuff and a face, think about a face. A skull is a form of a face. Is that your eye inherently reads it into things. That's why, like, you know, things look like faces in your everyday life, just like random shit. It's not because you're like schizophrenic. It's because the eye naturally reads in faces to things. So if you make like a skull or something like that, like in this kind of like abstract way, you have a lot going for you, because like I think someone would see this and think it looks like a skull, but like really there's almost no visual information here, like at all. It really doesn't. You know, there's like two dark dots and the general shape, and then your eye fills in the rest and is like, oh yeah, it's a skull, like obviously. But you don't even have to like really do that much. On that note, I mean, maybe we can get like a little bit more of like the teeth situation in here. I don't know how much it's gonna like fuzz back out, so yeah, I mean that's pretty dope. Yeah. Yeah, so you said it, someone said it, Spoonie said it. It honestly looks really dope and intentional. Yeah, so the thing is, like, what I'm thinking about right now when I'm making this is like, where's my other pen? So yeah, so I'm not just like totally going randomly. Like, I've drawn like a lot of skulls in my life, like real skulls, like from real life. I'm not talking about just like making them up. And like I know that like when you draw them, so like of course people know there's like, you know, the dark shapes of the eyes, right? And then there's like the dark part where the nose opens up, right? And then it kind of comes down and there's like a releasing part over here. And it kind of comes down. And then you have these like, I kind of exaggerate. I always exaggerate when I do it. But you really just have these like little indentations, you know? Right? So you have like the basic form of the skull. Right? But what I'm imagining when I'm doing this is the light is coming from this way. So if this were a real skull, there would be like, you know, the lightest part, and then there'd be like kind of like in shadow over here. And then as you came down a little bit more, there'd be like a little bit more shadow. But this part over here would be, you can actually, if you're watching this, you can feel your face. Literally feel under your eye right now. Not like touch the part under your eye with your knuckle or something. So you have these parts. You can literally feel them. Actually, like really do it, for real. You can feel those parts. So I know that those are there because I've studied like facial anatomy. That's why I left this white and that's why I left this white. You can literally feel that part of your face. Conversely, as you're coming up into your nose, so you can touch your face again while you're doing this, you can feel it slope in. So it's not going to be catching the light. So I made it a little bit darker over here. You know, I kind of left this. Also, you can feel this part over here too. You can feel there's this part of, I kind of made it a little bit too dark here. But if you touch like your eye with your knuckle, like around there, and come towards the back, you can feel like your temple. You can feel this like ridge over here. That's why I kind of like made it a little dark over here. Yeah. And then also if you touch this part of your nose and come down a little bit, you know, it kind of comes out a little bit here too. I left this part white. I could have not left that part white. But basically, yeah, as you start to study like facial anatomy and stuff like that, you can, well, it's not really facial anatomy. As you study like how light works, it just becomes part of how you operate when you're doing an image. So it's not like as I was doing this, like what I'm saying when I'm talking to you guys is what I'm thinking while I'm doing it. So it's not like I was like, oh man, I have to like make sure I put in like the, you know, whatever the fuck this part of the face is called, like I don't know, but I just know that's how it is, so I'm doing it naturally. I'm not saying it's like some great picture or something. I'm just saying like as you study like how light works and things like that, it just becomes part of how you make any image. Even this like random abstract blob that we did before a minute ago, subconsciously in like the back of my mind, like I'm thinking about light and dark and how that works and stuff like that. This actually looks pretty good, even this drawing. There is a tutorial on my website under the comics section. If you click on comics, there's instructional, and there's a whole tutorial about light and how light works with like dark lights and highlights and stuff like that. They'll get you going really hard. I really highly recommend that. Okay, that was a huge fucking detour, but that was really chill. Let's see how far we are right now. It's 1:47. Let's do it this way. I will just quickly take some questions. If anyone wants to ask me anything, I'll quickly take some questions. I'm just going to do a little bit more with the watercolor pencils because like that was the whole point of breaking all that stuff out. I didn't think we'd take that hard of a detour into Radiant watercolor world, but we did. It was kind of fun. It was really fun, actually. That was really tight. But I want to show you guys just one more thing. If anyone wants to ask me questions, you can ask me questions like while I'm doing this. And then we'll wrap it up soon. It's almost been 2 hours, so it's kind of a long time. Ideally, I wanted these to be like an hour and 30 minutes, but I feel like that ship sailed like in the first week. One thing I really love about your art is how your use of color gradients, but they mostly appear in your digital stuff. Are you able to do that using analog painting? Yes. Oh, and see my hands? This is also why I wear gloves. They're all fucked up. Yeah, I do. Do I have any of my older paintings here right now? I don't know if I do, but long story short, no, I think I left them back in New York. Yeah, I do. Basically what you can do is like, that's part of why I engage with like things in like a medieval, well, how should I phrase this? That's part of why I enjoy engaging with things in like a medieval aesthetic. With oil paint, did I get this dirty? Yeah, a little bit. With oil paint, this is really just a quick answer to your question. If we were oil painting and you put down a slab of light red and a slab of dark red, actually most people don't know this about painting, so I'm about to like tell you something really interesting. So if you put down a slab of light red and a slab of dark red, what we would do then is we would come back with a clear brush, a brush with no paint on it, and we would do this. We would just kind of like wiggle the paint back and forth, and then we'd have a brush called a fan brush. It looks kind of like it's like this. The brush tip ends, and it fans out like that with not that many hairs, and we take the fan brush and we would blend it. And then we come back and do the wiggle again, and then come with the fan brush, and that's how you get a gradient when you're oil painting. Oil paint stays wet literally forever, so that's how you do it. With the kind of paint that I use, what I would do is, if this is the sky, because my paint dries really fast, you guys have seen me paint, it dries like on camera. Let's say we painted the sky in light blue, I would make it a teeny bit darker, and I'd come in and I'd literally just put in these kind of like hatch marks. And I would just put in hatch marks, and then maybe I'd make it a little bit darker and then come in again. And it's like you're shading it, so if you're far away, it looks like a smooth gradient, but if you get up close, you can see the hatch marks. I like that because it really manifests the painterly quality of it. It's like, you can see how the person is constructing the image. When I paint now, I'm not going for like an illusion. I'm not going for like Da Vinci, like, oh my God, this apple looks so real. I'm operating in a totally different paradigm where I just like being playful and interesting with how I'm constructing the image. And I think that's what people respond to in my images a lot. So yeah, you can get a gradient, but it's a very specific type of gradient to answer your question. And honestly, also not to sound like pretentious, I mean, I like my own art. Maybe you guys do too. I don't think it's like the best thing in the world, but I actually do. I think it's good. I think my own stuff is good. When I use gradients digitally, it's actually pretty hard to make gradients look good, in my opinion. And I think that part of why I'm successful using them is because I think of it in the painting context. When you start doing Photoshop stuff, a lot of people will tell you like don't use gradients because they're kind of like hard to make them look good, basically. But I think because I'm always thinking of them in that like painterly context, I don't know. Maybe that's why I think they look good. But yeah, I'm glad you like my color gradients, dude. Thanks, man. I'm just going to draw a little bit while I'm answering these questions so I can show you guys one last thing. So I'll take the questions, I'll draw a little bit, I'll show you guys one last thing, and then we'll wrap this up. How did I develop my dominant style? That's a really good question. Really by drawing. The real answer to that is by both drawing a lot and looking at a lot of artwork, doing both of those things. Once you start looking at art, you kind of get a feel for what you like and what you don't like, and studying art and stuff like that. On the looking at art side, pretty much most cities, even if you live in a city where you're like, oh, there's probably no museum here, there probably is some kind of like museum there or something. Just looking at art in general, if you can get to like a really good museum and see like some really good art, that's definitely worth it. Like, most people eventually go on some vacation to like some big city. You should really check out some art while you're there. And when you look at it, you can ask yourself, like, why is this different than my art? Like, why doesn't my art look like this? And I spent a lot of time doing that. I used to go to museums a lot and just walk around and look at the paintings. And then I'd go home and look at my paintings and be like, why? Like, what is it? Like, when I'm looking at, like, let's say an artist everyone knows, like Monet, I can go to the museum and look at Monet. And then when I come home and I can be like, why aren't my paintings like that? Like, I have the paint and I have the canvas and I have the brushes. What is it? And spending a lot of time with those questions. I'm not trying to emulate Monet's style. There's other art that I did that with. Looking at a lot of art and just drawing a lot, making a lot of pictures over and over and over and over, a lot of them, doing stuff like this. Like, so all that stuff we just did, that's like in the back of my mind when I'm painting. And of course it is. Even if I'm doing nothing like this. Thinking a lot about ideas about how and why images work and how and why they're successful. Whether it's from reading or just thinking about it on my own. Yeah, it's a lot of things, man. It's a lot of things. But mostly it comes from, to wrap up, I mean, I can spend like hours talking about that. Mostly it comes from my fascination with sacred art and religious art. I've always been fascinated with how ideas are able to be conveyed visually and how images can convey ideas and how images are kind of like, like when they find the cave walls, you know what I mean? However old those actually are. it's not like there's writing there. There's pictures there. You know what I'm saying? Like pictures are so essential to like how we think and thinking about all that stuff a lot. Thinking about all that stuff a lot is really the question. And looking at a lot of art and doing a lot of art. That's really the question. What do you think is the best art style and form to start with? It's a really good question, dude. Honestly, what I have to tell you is that so what I'm doing right now while I'm answering these questions, there's another kind of style that I wanted to point out, where with the watercolor pencils, so we saw how like loose they could be before, and I'm not gonna I was gonna do a still life, but then you can't see what I'm looking at. Like if I'm painting an apple, but you can't see the apple, it's kind of stupid. So I had to figure out how to do that. I'm gonna talk about drawing stuff from real life in a second right now before we wrap this up. But also, sometimes I just draw something, right? And then I'll color it in with the watercolor pencils, and you get kind of a nice look because it's kind of loose with the watercolor, but with the lines have like a tightness and clearness, and then with the coloring you can get kind of loose. So that's what I'm going to do right now and just illustrate that really quick while I'm answering some questions. And this is how I worked for a long time. Even sometimes now, just for fun. I don't really post it on Twitter too much, but you guys will see what I'm talking about. The question was best art style to start with. Yeah, so fittingly jumping off from that, in the beginning, I actually wouldn't really recommend I want to work in this style necessarily. The thing is, what allows you to really create your own style and deploy elements of different styles and understand how different styles work and things like that is drawing from life. I went to art school, and honestly, it's fucking tragic, and I'm only telling you this out of an abundance of caution. But I went to art school with people who for 4 years literally weren't better at all when they left. Because if you're just kind of copying other people's styles and stuff like that, I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. Of course you're going to look at how Charles Schultz draws Charlie Brown and copy it, and look at Tibetan art maybe. I mean, don't that's kind of my thing. No, I'm just kidding. And copy it, or find some medieval art you like and copy it. Of course you're going to do that. I'm not saying don't do that. But if that's all you do, then basically all you're doing is amassing tricks. You're oh, this is how Tibetan artists make hair. Oh, and this is how a medieval artist paints a sunrise. Oh, and this is how they make bunny rabbits in Persian art. And you just pick up these tricks, and tricks don't get it together, don't make some big cohesive thing. By drawing from life, you really build those skills. It's kind of just like music. It's like actually that's a perfect metaphor. It's like you're asking me, hey, Owen, I want to learn to play piano. What style should I start with? Should I start with rock and roll piano or jazz piano or what? And it's well, yeah, you're going to do that, but the only way you're really going to get better is by studying the technique and classical piano, and by actually learning how to play the piano. And that's how, when you tap into those other worlds, you're going to have the ability to deploy your actual skill and develop your actual skill. So that'll be my answer. Just drawing stuff a lot from real life, drawing things from real life a lot, not using photos. Don't use photos. Draw shit around your house, your mug, apples, people around your house sitting there, the chair, the cat, what's outside your window. Draw that stuff a lot in different ways. We talked about doing it with pen, realistic, watercolor, whatever. Doing that a lot, drawing from life, is how you grow that skills bar when you're making art. And then you can use that skills to do other things, But that's really what you want to be doing, and that's really what I recommend, is drawing from life a lot. That's it. Most of the questions people ask me about how to get better at art boil down to that. Drawing from life a lot. That's what I recommend. Don't you have scans of your older paintings on your Tumblr and website? Yeah, I do. I'm just not going to pull them up right now. It's not really worth it, just illustrate that one little simple principle. But I have scans of my paintings on my website, yeah. I have one I have to take down because it's a little blasphemous, because it's an occult painting. It's full on occult. I don't really subscribe to that anymore, but to be honest with you guys, I left it up because it's really fucking good. The painting's really good, but I hate that it's very blasphemous, so I'm going to take it down eventually when I find something cool to replace it with. I probably should take it down right now, actually. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll take it down after the stream. So you can see what I'm doing here. I just kind of drew some random little thing. But this is a nice way to get a nice, very illustrative look when you're using the watercolor pencils with a nice tight line drawing. And I love working like this. It's kind of a nice this is right in between painting and drawing for me. It's that sweet spot. I'm probably gonna wrap it up when I finish this. If anyone wants to ask me anything else, do it. All right, otherwise I'm just gonna keep talking. So yeah, just to recap what we talked about here. Oh, look at this! Look at this blue. It's so nice, so nice. Let's bring the camera down a little bit so we can wrap this up. This is like old school Owen style. I used to do this kind of shit all the time. Cool. I'm gonna kind of pump up the looseness just so you guys can really see like how nice it could be if you just get that like little painterly vibe going on. Now we really are Bob Ross style. Get a little blue down here. Draw a nice happy key. Just a nice happy key. Some nice little shadows on the happy star. Okay, so to recap what we talked about here. If you want to start doing art at your spot. Oh, and see, look at this nice fade. It's so nice. It looks so like professional, but you can see I'm just like fucking around here. Ink, pens, brushes. You can get a little setup going like that, a little arsenal going on, and you can go really far with those materials. If you watch the earlier episodes, I talk about watercolor paper and stuff like that. I guess if enough people ask me, I can, maybe I'll put a little guide on my website or something for like what watercolor paper to get and stuff like that. But this is an easy way. Everything I've shown you here tonight is a really good way that you can just be doing art in your house without spending a ton of money or having to go crazy on the setup and things like that. I'm going to make these leaves dark. I don't think I'll regret that. And yeah, even if you don't really want to be an artist, even if you have no aspirations of like, getting famous or whatever, it's just really nice and it opens up a whole different part of your brain. And you can see how fun it is. Like when we were watching the skull and everything, I mean, dude, that was fun. I mean, that was a really good time. It's very, very satisfying. It's also a good break if other things, maybe your main form of art is like writing or music, or maybe you have some skill, like you are really good at accounting or you're really good at cars, or I don't know, people are good at all different kinds of things. It's always good to just like change it up. Like I do that too with other art forms. Sometimes if I'm at my desk for too long, I'll just walk across the room and pick up my guitar and just like play some random stuff. And for me, guitar is kind of like a safe respite because it's like I'm not a great guitarist. I'm good at it. I think I'm pretty good at it actually, but like it's not my main thing. I'm not like trying to be like a bard. I'm not trying to like make it in that world. So it's a nice like fun retreat for me because I can just jump in that world and be like, all right, I'm just fucking around now. So maybe art could be that for you, especially if you're going to be stuck inside for like the next month. Honestly, I'm kind of pressuring you a little bit. And also, I'm just going to talk a little bit about sketching before I wrap this up. Has anyone ever told me I sound like Paul Town? No, I'll definitely take that as a compliment, though. I don't think I've heard Paul Town talk, though. I've only seen him tweet. I'll take that as a compliment, though. He must be pretty fucking cool if he sounds like me. So in terms of sketching stuff, you want to draw stuff around your house, draw stuff from nature. Here's the thing, though. A lot of times when people send me sketches, they're drawing inorganic objects around their house. That's cool. You can do that. But I think you're going to have a lot more success personally. It's my own personal view. You can draw whatever you want. But maybe you will find it more satisfying in a way drawing organic items. When you're drawing stuff like, like a bottle of Windex or your iPod. I always say iPod. My wife makes fun of me. iPhone. Your iPhone. It's never going to look perfect. You're never going to get that look where it actually looks like the thing that you're drawing. But when you're drawing organic items like an apple or a tree outside, obviously those are like kind of like imperfect things. So it's better to do that. It's more forgiving in a way. Bushes, anything. Just draw anything around your house. And you'll eventually get better at it. I don't know what Animal Crossing is like. I guess this is kind of like what I imagine it's like. Like you get some shit and there's like trees and like you live in a house, right? Maybe that's subconsciously why I like made this image right here. Make this a little welcome mat and then I'm going to wrap this up. This is a really good one though. Thanks for watching this if you watched this whole thing. Any other questions? What's my go-to guitar song riffs? I mainly just improvise in the modes. If you know the modes like Dorian and Lydian and Mixolydian and stuff like that, I just kind of tear off and like improvise basically. I just like doing like instrumental stuff. It's a whole other conversation, but I kind of like playing guitar that way because it's kind of like I'm painting like with the music. It sounds like really fucking pretentious, but it's kind of like I enjoy like toying around with like the structure of like how the notes sound together. It sounds so stupid, but I enjoy like the way in which, you know, you're skillfully pairing the notes together and how it creates like different like musical and like harmonic effects. I sound like an idiot, but I just like fucking around on the guitar. I know a lot of music theory. It's kind of, I don't know how much like jump into it right at the end, but yeah, that's basically why. What's my favorite mode? Dorian, bitch. Dorian every day. Yo, Dorian is the best mode. Come at me, bro. Definitely, no contest. Okay. This is the, all right, so wait, I just want to make sure I hit everything I want to hit. Yeah, so you watch this whole thing. I'm not going to go back over the materials. Hit me up if you want advice on picking them up. Things to remember: ink, brushes, the pen, Hunt 101 pen tips. I showed you the Faber-Castell. That's what this is right here. And you can see the style. I'm not going to go into it, but, you know, drawing, chilling. Doesn't have to be so, like, crazy formal. You can just, like, be fucking around. It's just a good time. This is really fun to just, like, sit around and blow off some steam and just draw some, like, chill stuff. I use the Faber-Castell colored pencils. Prismacolor is a good cheaper brand. You can hit me up if you want to talk about watercolor paper, or I'll do another episode like this. And let's see, I'll take the last question. Mixolydian? Mixolydian is very respectable. What's the... It's a really, really good question to end on. Craziest conspiracy theory I think could be true that's YouTube friendly. I entertain the idea that we are being lied to about the general cosmological situation. That's often like accelerated into like, oh, you think like Earth is flat? It's really not like that. But I just don't think we're getting the whole story about what exists like beyond like our immediate like sensory perception in terms of like what the night sky is, space, things like that. It's not that I have like some theory that I'm hiding, like, oh, it's really a dome. Like, I consider all possibilities, but I kind of think it's a big question mark. And when I hear like NASA talk about like all this stuff, sometimes I'm like, I don't know. It's not that I think that everything they're saying is like fake, but I think that there's some things about the universe just in general, like Tesla talking about like the ether and secrets, and it just seems like there's something about the whole like cosmological physical reality that we're not being told the whole story on. And I guess in the sense that would be like the grandest like conspiracy of all. All right, anyway, that wraps up the doing art at home while you're quarantined tools episode. That was really fun. Thanks for watching this. I really enjoy doing these, so thanks for checking this out. I hope it's cool. I think it's cool. I think it's going well. I don't know because I'm the one doing it, but I think it's going well. I think people are into it. So yeah, hit me up if you want to ask me anything. Even if you just want to tell me like, yo, I watched it and it was cool. That's cool because like I assume people are watching it and think it's cool, but I'm just this guy behind the computer. I have no idea. So yeah, man, thanks for watching this. I really appreciate people checking it out. I really like that people are into the live stream situation. I've been doing the Saturday night looking at art, like live stream radio shows, and then kind of like soft deleting them afterwards, just like hiding them on YouTube. So if you're around Saturday night and want to do that, I'll probably do it again. Maybe, maybe not. I'm not sure. Not many people watched the last one. Not that I really care, but I'm not really sure. Anyway, though, that was really dope. That was really fun for me. I hope it was fun for you. Thanks for coming through to the studio. Hit me up if you have any questions. Do some art. You're quarantined. Do some art. Peer pressure. Peer pressure. Do it. Do it. All right, cool, guys. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you on the internet. See you guys later. Oh my God, where's the button? Oh, good thing I ended the stream. Time for me to read my social security number. Oh boy, 4407